I'm 74 years old. And 3 years ago, my vision started getting worse. It wasn't sudden. It was too fast. In 6 months, I couldn't read the newspaper anymore without straining my eyes. Street signs were blurry. At night, I could barely see. Everyone said the same thing. It's your age. I believed them. I changed my glasses once, twice, 3 times. Nothing worked. My vision kept getting worse. Each month that passed, it seemed to get worse. And the worst part? I thought it was normal. I thought everyone went through this after 70. That there was nothing to do. That I just had to accept it. That it was part of aging, and that's it. But I was wrong. Completely wrong. Until the day I understood the truth. And when I understood, I had already lost a lot of time. A lot. The problem wasn't in my eyes. It wasn't my prescription. It wasn't my age. It was what I was doing to them every day without realizing it. And the worst part is that nobody warned me about this. I went to the eye doctor. Obviously. I made an appointment, waited weeks to get in, got there thinking I'd leave with a clear answer. I did all the tests, that puff of air test, reading letters that get smaller and smaller. The doctor measured the pressure, looked at the back of my eye, used that device to check my retina, did everything properly. It took almost 2 hours. I left tired with dilated eyes, seeing everything blurry. At the end, he looked at me and said, "Your prescription has increased quite a bit. Let's adjust your glasses." I asked, "But is it normal for it to increase this fast?" He said, "After 70, yes, it's common." I left with a new prescription, went to the optician, chose good frames, the expensive kind, paid over $1,000, thought it was solved. I was happy. I thought, now I'll see properly again. 2 months later, I couldn't see properly again. The letters were blurry again. The TV was blurry. I had to get too close to read anything. Traffic signs? Forget it. I could only see them when I was almost underneath them. TV subtitles? Impossible. Everything blurry. I went back to the doctor, made another appointment, waited again, same story. He did the tests again, looked at the results with that serious face, and said, "It's normal after 70. Vision changes fast at this age. The lens ages. It's natural." And he gave me another prescription with an even higher number. And I accepted it. Because that's what we do, right? We trust. We believe. If the doctor is saying it's normal, then it must be normal. If he studied for years for this, who am I to question? But deep down, really deep down, I knew something was wrong. Because the speed was too fast. Because it didn't make sense to need to change glasses every 3-4 months. I knew people my age, friends, acquaintances, people even older than me. They complained about their vision, yes. Everyone complains after 60. It's part of it. But not like that. Not at that frightening speed. Not having to change glasses every few months. And I started to notice I was losing things. Important things. Things I enjoyed doing. I stopped driving at night. First because it was hard to see the signs. The signs were blurry. Street names. Forget it. Then because the headlights of other cars blinded me. It was a white, strong light that exploded in my face, and I'd see spots for seconds. Too dangerous. I stopped reading books, something I always loved. I was always a reader. But I couldn't anymore. 10 minutes and my eyes were already burning, watering, tired. I tried to insist, but it was impossible. The headache came right after. At the grocery store, I had to ask for help to read the labels, because the letters were too small, those tiny little letters they put on products. I felt embarrassed, but there was no other way. And the worst of all, I started avoiding going out. Because I was embarrassed, very embarrassed. Embarrassed that I couldn't see. Embarrassed that I needed help all the time. Embarrassed to ask, "What does it say there?" all the time. People looked at me with pity. I could see it, and I hated that. So I preferred to stay home, where I knew everything, where I didn't have to strain so much, and I kept believing it was just age, that there was nothing to do, that it was like this for everyone, that I just had to accept it, and that's it. If you're over 60, or know someone who is, like this video and subscribe to the channel. This kind of warning can make all the difference, and I'll explain exactly why. Stay with me, because what I'm going to tell you might change your way of seeing this. Today, when I look back, I see that all the signs were there, right in front of me, screaming at me. I just didn't pay attention. Or rather, I paid attention. But I ignored them because I thought it was part of it, because everyone said it was normal. And when everyone says the same thing, we believe it. My vision got worse at night, much worse. When it got dark, it was like everything was covered by a thick fog. I couldn't define the contours of things. Everything looked kind of gray, kind of blurry. I avoided leaving home after 6 in the evening, and any bright light bothered me a lot. Car headlights, don't even mention it. It felt like they exploded in my face. I had to close my eyes and wait for it to pass. White lights, those LED ones everyone uses nowadays, I had to look away, couldn't look directly. Even the phone screen bothered me. I'd turn the brightness to minimum, and it was still too much. That white, cold light that hurt my eyes. I blinked all the time, non-stop. It was automatic. I didn't even notice anymore. My eyes were dry, very dry. They burned. They itched. They felt full of sand. I'd use eye drops, those from the pharmacy, artificial tears. But it didn't help. Half an hour later, everything came back. The dryness, the burning, the discomfort. And there's one thing I remember very well. Reading became a sacrifice. Before, I read the newspaper every day, cover to cover. It was my time, my morning ritual. Coffee, newspaper, peace. But there came a time when half a page was already a giant effort. I had to stop, close my eyes, rub them a bit, rest, go back, read a bit more, stop again. And the headache came. It always came. It started at my forehead, then went to my eyes, then to my neck. And it wasn't just the newspaper. It was anything. Medicine instructions, text messages, bills to pay, contracts to sign. Everything became difficult. Everything became an effort. I also started avoiding places with low light, restaurants with that low, romantic, candle-lit lighting. Forget it. I couldn't even read the menu. I'd have to ask the waiter to tell me what they had. Dark rooms, movie theaters. I always felt uncomfortable, anxious, afraid of tripping, not seeing a step, bumping into someone. And people noticed. I could see it in their looks. He's not seeing properly. Poor thing. I hated that. At the time I thought, it's just tiredness. It's just stress. It's just age catching up. But it wasn't. It wasn't any of that. I was straining my vision all the time, from morning to night, without rest, without breaks, without realizing it. And that was accelerating everything. There's a phrase I heard a lot during that time, from doctors, from friends, from family. After 70, it's like that. I repeated that phrase to myself, like it was consolation, like repeating it would make me accept it better, like accepting was the only option. But the truth is I was ignoring something much bigger, something that was right under my nose, something I did every day, several times a day. And that was destroying my vision without me realizing it. Slowly, silently, but effectively. If this is making sense to you, if you're identifying with some of these things I'm talking about, like the video and subscribe. Because what I'm going to say now, few people talk about, and you need to know, especially if you're over 60. I was always an active person. Even after I retired, I wasn't one to just sit around. I wasn't one of those who retires and spends all day sitting watching TV. I had my routine. I woke up early, made coffee, read the news, organized things around the house, took care of the garden, talked to the neighbors. I watched TV, yes, used my phone, yes, talked to friends on WhatsApp. But nothing excessive, all normal. Everything any person does nowadays. Nothing exaggerated, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that stood out. But there was a habit I didn't know was a problem, a habit most people have, and that nobody says can slowly destroy your vision. I spent hours in front of screens, and when I say hours, I mean hours. It wasn't exaggeration, it wasn't addiction, it wasn't compulsion, it was daily life, the normal routine of any person. In the morning after coffee, I'd grab my phone, sit on the porch, and stay there. I'd read the news, on news websites, on social media, watch some videos, on YouTube, on Facebook. Random things, news, interviews, a bit of everything, reply to messages from my kids, grandkids, friends. About 2 hours there, easy, sometimes even more. After lunch, I'd sit on the couch and turn on the TV, watch the news, then a movie, sometimes a series, sometimes just channel surfing. Another 2, 3 hours, depending on the day, even 4. In the afternoon, I'd go back to my phone, check more news, watch videos on YouTube, those curiosity videos, history, documentaries, another one 2 hours there. At night, before sleeping, I'd spend another hour on my phone, lying in bed, reading, watching anything, until I got sleepy. Adding it all up, it was 6, 7, sometimes 8 hours a day. Easy. And I thought there was no problem. After all, everyone does this, right? Everyone's on their phone nowadays. Everyone watches TV. Everyone uses technology. What's the big deal? It's the modern world. That's how it works. But what I didn't know is that this was straining my vision in a way my body couldn't recover from anymore. It wasn't just age. It wasn't just the prescription naturally increasing. It was the accumulation. It was the constant strain. Every day, for months, for years. And the worst part, after 60, the body doesn't recover like before. When you're young, you strain your vision all day, sleep one night, and the next day, you're fine. The eyes rest. They regenerate. But after 60, it doesn't work like that. The regeneration capacity decreases a lot. The wear accumulates day after day, week after week, month after month. And you don't notice. Because it's slow, because it's gradual, because it's silent. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't bother immediately. It doesn't give any alarm signal. Until suddenly, you realize you can't see properly anymore. And then it's too late, way too late. It was the artificial light directly in my eyes, for hours, every day. That blue light from screens that scientists discovered is harmful. But nobody really warns you about it. It was the effort of focusing on small letters, on bright screens, on poor contrasts, on images that change quickly. It was the fact that I didn't blink properly when I was focused on the screen. We forget to blink, and the eyes dry out. And that causes inflammation, and inflammation accelerates wear. And nobody warned me about this. No doctor asked, "How much time do you spend looking at screens?" No friend commented, "Be careful with your phone, it can strain your vision." Nobody. I did this every day, thinking there was no problem, thinking it was harmless, thinking it was normal. Until the truth came. And it wasn't in a way I expected. It wasn't in a doctor's office. It wasn't in an exam. It was in a simple conversation, casual, by chance. If you're noticing you do something similar, if you spend several hours a day in front of screens, like this video, because what comes next might completely change your way of seeing this. It might save you from a lot of trouble. The discovery didn't come from a doctor. It didn't come from a sophisticated exam. It didn't come from a medical book. It came from a simple conversation with a friend. I was at his house. We've known each other for years. Since we were young, we worked together, retired around the same time. We see each other from time to time, talk about life, about health, about things that come with age. That day, he mentioned he had reduced his screen time. I asked, why? Were you having problems? He said, I was. My eyes got too tired. They burned. They were dry all the time, and my vision was getting worse fast, very fast. I said, just like me. He continued. So I started paying attention, started observing my daily routine, and I realized I spent all day looking at screens, phone, computer, TV, non-stop, without stopping. I stayed quiet, because it was exactly what I did. He said, so I decided to test it, cut it in half, started taking breaks, increased the font size, put on a blue light filter. And you know what happened? I asked. What? It got better, a lot. My eyes stopped getting so tired, the dryness decreased, and my vision stopped getting worse at that accelerated pace. That stuck in my head, really stuck. I went home thinking about it, couldn't stop thinking. I started paying attention to my routine, really observing, with attention. And then I saw it, clearly. I'd wake up and go straight to my phone, before even getting out of bed. Spent the morning between phone and TV, the whole afternoon on TV, at night back on the phone, until bedtime, every day, without exception, without variation. It was automatic. I didn't even think about it. I went to research. I went on the internet, on Google, read some things, articles about eye health, about blue light, about visual fatigue, talked to other people my age, asked about their habits, and then I started to understand, to connect the dots. The eyes, after a certain age, don't recover from tiredness like before. The regeneration capacity decreases drastically. The cells responsible for this dye lose their strength. And when you strain your vision for hours, looking at screens, artificial lights, small letters, poor contrasts, the wear is real, it's physical, it's measurable, and it doesn't help to rest one night, because the accumulation continues. It's like a bank account that only withdraws and never deposits. Eventually, it runs out, goes to zero, and doesn't come back. And that was exactly what was happening to me. And that was exactly what was happening to me. I was spending my vision every day, without realizing, without knowing there was a limit, without knowing that after a certain point, there's no going back. That's when I connected everything, the symptoms I had, the rapid decline, the constant tiredness, the dryness, the light sensitivity. It all made sense. It wasn't just age. It wasn't just natural aging. It was what I was doing to my eyes every day. I was accelerating the decline, forcing, wearing down, slowly destroying, without realizing, without wanting to, but doing it. And the worst part, I thought it was normal, thought everyone went through this, thought there was nothing to do. It wasn't a doctor who made me understand this. It was looking at my own daily routine and realizing the obvious. What I did every day was the problem. And if it was the problem, then it could be changed. If you're starting to understand where I'm going, if you're realizing you might be doing the same thing, like the video and subscribe. Because now comes the part that really changed everything for me. The practical part. What I did and what worked. I didn't do anything radical. I didn't stop using my phone. I didn't stop watching TV. I didn't throw my electronics in the trash. I didn't become a hermit. I didn't lock myself in a monastery. But I started paying attention, and I started making small adjustments. Small but consistent. First, I reduced the time. Instead of spending 2 straight hours on my phone in the morning, I'd spend 20, 30 minutes. No more than that. Then I'd take a break, get up, go outside, look at the sky, look at the horizon, let my eyes rest, focus on something distant. Sounds silly, but it made a difference, a big difference. I increased the font size. On my phone, I put it at maximum, huge letters. I don't care if it looks like an old person thing, it's what works. On the computer, same thing. Zoom increased, large letters. I stopped forcing myself to read small letters, just stopped. I also put blue light filters on the screens. On the phone, it's in the settings. Just activate it. Makes the screen kind of yellowish, but it protects. On the computer, I installed a program that does this automatically. That helped a lot. The feeling of tiredness decreased significantly. My eyes stopped burning so much. And the simplest thing of all, I started blinking more. Sounds absurd, I know. But it's serious. When we're focused on the screen, we forget to blink. It's scientifically proven. We blink 3-4 times less than normal. And when you don't blink, your eyes dry out. They get irritated, they inflame, and that makes everything worse. So I started forcing myself to blink, on purpose. Every few minutes I'd blink several times in a row. On purpose. Consciously. At first it felt strange, but it became a habit. Another important thing, I started avoiding screens before bed. At least 1 hour before lying down, I'd turn everything off. Phone, TV, computer, everything. I'd grab a paper book. Or just stay quiet, talk to my wife, listen to music. This made a huge difference in sleep quality and in eye recovery. Because it's during sleep that the eyes regenerate. And if you're on the screen until bedtime, you disrupt this process. I also started using glasses with blue light protection, even when I didn't need prescription, just to protect, to block that harmful light. Bought them online, not expensive, and it helps. And in the following appointments with the ophthalmologist, I talked to him about all this, told him what I was doing, the changes I had made. He confirmed it, said that screen time really makes a difference, especially after 60, said that blue light really is harmful, that constant strain really wears you down, and encouraged me to continue. It wasn't magic, it wasn't a miraculous cure, it wasn't an overnight transformation. But in 3 months I noticed something very clear, very evident. My vision stopped getting worse so fast. I didn't need to change my glasses again for the first time in years. The tiredness decreased a lot. My eyes stopped burning all the time. The dryness improved. I stopped needing eye drops all the time. And I went back to reading without straining so much. Went back to being able to read the newspaper, gradually, calmly. But I went back. It was gradual. It was slow. But it was real, very real. And then I became absolutely sure the problem wasn't just age. It wasn't just natural and inevitable aging. It was what I was doing without realizing. It was the habit I thought was harmless. It was the routine I thought was normal. And that was slowly destroying my vision, day after day. But I also realized something else, that it could be changed, that it wasn't too late, that there was still time, and that gave me hope, gave me motivation to keep taking care. If this makes sense to you, if you're realizing you need to make these changes too, like the video, because now I need to warn you about something very important, something that can save you from a lot of regret in the future. If you're over 60, I need you to pay close attention to what I'm going to say now, because this isn't an exaggeration, it's not alarmism, it's not fear-mongering, it's not being dramatic, it's real, very real. Ignoring this is costly, and when I say costly, it's not just money on appointments and new glasses, it's quality of life, it's independence, it's autonomy, it's dignity. Vision doesn't warn you when it's reaching its limit. It doesn't sound an alarm. It doesn't send a notification. It doesn't light up a red light in front of you. It gets worse, gradually, silently, without making noise, a little bit each day, a little bit each week. And when you really realize you've lost a lot. You've already lost too much. I lost 3 years. 3 whole years straining my vision unnecessarily, 3 years ignoring the signs that were right in front of me, 3 years thinking it was normal, that it was just age, that there was nothing to do, 3 wasted years, and the more time passes, the harder it gets to hold back the decline, because the wear accumulates, and there comes a point where it doesn't come back, because after a certain point, the cells don't regenerate anymore. The damage is permanent, irreversible. And that's scary, very scary, because we depend on vision for everything, for absolutely everything in our lives, to read, to drive, to cook, to shower, to dress, to cross the street, to recognize our grandchildren's faces, to see people's expressions, to understand the world around us, to live with autonomy, with independence, with dignity, and losing that is losing a lot, is losing too much. I saw people who lost it, acquaintances, friends of friends, people who today depend on others for everything, for absolutely everything, who can't go out alone anymore, who can't do their own things anymore, who lost their independence, their freedom, their dignity. And I don't want that for you. I don't want you to go through what I went through. The frustration of not understanding what was happening. The feeling of helplessness watching everything get worse and not knowing what to do. The anger of having ignored the signs when there was still time. The regret of not having paid attention earlier. The weight of knowing I could have prevented it. You don't need to stop living. You don't need to lock yourself at home. You don't need to throw your phone away. You don't need to become a hermit. But you need to pay attention, a lot of attention, to the signs, to the symptoms, to the habits, to what you do every day. Because age alone doesn't explain everything. It doesn't justify everything. It's not an excuse for everything. There are 80-year-olds who see better than 60-year-olds. Why? Because they paid attention, because they took care, because they didn't ignore, because they made the necessary adjustments. What you do with your eyes every day is what makes the difference between preserving and losing, between maintaining and destroying, between aging well or aging poorly. If you spend hours in front of screens, you're straining your vision. Period. If you don't rest your eyes, if you don't take breaks, you're accumulating wear. If you ignore the tiredness, if you ignore the signs, you're accelerating the decline. And the sooner you realize this, the better. The sooner you make the adjustments, the more you preserve. The sooner you take care, the more you maintain. Because once you lose it, it doesn't come back. There's no treatment that brings it back. There's no surgery that recovers it. What's lost is lost forever. And believe me, it's very worth taking care. It's very worth making these small adjustments. It's very worth paying attention. Because the difference between doing this now or ignoring it can be huge. It can be the difference between keeping your autonomy or losing it. Between continuing to do what you love or having to depend on others. Between aging with dignity or aging with limitations. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic. I'm speaking from personal experience, from having lived this, from having ignored it, from having lost time, from having seen the difference that small changes make, and from knowing how much I regret not having done this earlier. So please don't ignore it. Don't accept it's normal for your age as a definitive answer, as an excuse for everything. Question, investigate, pay attention to your daily routine, to what you do, to what you can change, and take care of your eyes like you take care of any other important thing in your life. Because they're important. Very important. The most important of all the senses. And you only really realize this when you start to lose them, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. This kind of conversation can make all the difference for you, or for someone you know. And the more people know about this, the more people pay attention to this, the better. Better for everyone. If you're following along to this point, if you've made it to this point in the video, leave a like. This helps the video reach more people who need to hear this warning. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a family member, a friend, someone your age, share it with that person. It can make a big difference. Today, at 74, I look back and think about everything I could have avoided, about everything I could have done differently, about all the choices I made without knowing the consequences. If I had paid attention earlier, if I had noticed the signs, if I had understood that age doesn't justify everything, that not everything is normal, if I had realized what I was doing to my eyes every day, a lot would have been different, very different. I wouldn't have strained so much. I wouldn't have ignored the signs. I wouldn't have accepted the easy answers. I would have questioned more, investigated more, cared more. I would have taken care earlier, much earlier, and I would have preserved much more than I managed to preserve. But that's life, right? We learn from mistakes. The problem is that some mistakes are costly, very costly. Some mistakes we can't go back and fix. And this one was costly. It cost me dearly. That's why I decided to speak up. That's why I'm here, recording this, sharing this. Because if there's one thing I learned in all this life, it's that we don't need to accept everything as normal. We can question. We should question. We can pay attention. We should pay attention. We can adjust. We can change. We can take care. And we can preserve. Much more than we imagine. And this applies to everything, not just vision. It applies to health in general, to relationships, to life as a whole. We have more control than we imagine, more power of choice than doctors sometimes say, more capacity to change than we believe. But that control, that power, comes from attention, comes from looking at your own daily routine and realizing what's right and what's wrong, comes from having the courage to question, to investigate, to change, and having the courage to change, even when it's difficult, even when everyone says it's normal. It doesn't have to be a radical change. It doesn't have to be a complete transformation. Small adjustments already make a difference, a big difference. But you need to start. You need to take the first step. You need to make the decision. If you're noticing your vision is getting worse fast, don't ignore it. Please don't ignore it. Don't make the same mistake I made. Seek help, yes. Do the exams, consult the doctors, that's important. But also look at your daily routine, at what you do, at what you can change, at what's straining your eyes without you realizing. Because sometimes the problem isn't where we think it is. Sometimes the solution is simpler than it seems. Sometimes it's right in front of us, and we don't see it. And sometimes we just need to pay attention. That's all. I took 3 years to understand this. 3 lost years. 3 years I can't get back. That won't come back. But you don't need to take that long. You don't need to lose that time. You can start today. You can pay attention today. You can make the adjustments today. And you can preserve what you still have, while you still have it, because it's worth it. A lot. Very much. If I had understood this earlier, a lot would have been different in my life. A lot. I would have lived better, with more quality, with more independence. That's why I decided to speak up. That's why I made this video. That's why I'm sharing this, so you don't go through what I went through, so you don't have the same regret I have, and so you take care of your vision while there's still time. Because later, it gets difficult, very difficult. But now there's still time. There's still time, and that time is precious. Don't waste it. If this conversation made sense to you, if you made it to the end of this video, like and subscribe to the channel. This type of content can help a lot of people, can change a lot of people's lives. And I'll continue bringing important conversations like this, conversations that make a difference, that warn, that help, that save. Share with whoever you think needs to hear this. It could be a friend, a father, a mother, a grandfather, a grandmother, someone you know who's going through the same problem. Because the more people know, the better. The more people pay attention, the fewer people will suffer. Thank you for staying until the end. From the heart, thank you so much. And take care of your eyes. They deserve it. You deserve it.